Okay, Dr. Mindy here, and you guys asked a question on my community page, or several of you asked, about keto and vegetarianism. How do those two fit together? And I think there was a really interesting conversation that was started where somebody said, isn't that an oxymoron? How can those two things exist together? And somebody else mentioned, gosh, all you do is talk about meat and fish. How, if I'm a vegetarian, can I succeed at the keto diet? So I really wanted to come to you and do a video for you, specifically on my thoughts around how you can integrate the keto diet and vegetarianism, because I'm a big fan of diet variation. I believe that there's a way to incorporate almost every diet into the ketogenic diet. So let me start off. I have 3 things that I want you to think about if you would like to stay a vegetarian while doing keto. So the first I'd like to ask you is, why are you a vegetarian? Okay, so now everybody's a vegetarian for different reasons. I can tell you, for me, when I was 20 years old, I read a book called Diet for a New America. It was put out by John Robbins. If you're not familiar with John Robbins, he was the heir to the Baskin and Robbins food industry, empire. And he saw how the animals were treated, how bad the milk was, what it was doing to cause disease, that he turned down his whole opportunity to take over Baskin Robbins and became a vegetarian and wrote a ton of books on why vegetarianism is helpful. And when I read that book, I became a vegetarian. For 10 years, I was a vegetarian. And for me personally, it was one of the sickest times that I've ever had. And because for me personally, that I wasn't doing vegetarianism as thoroughly as I should, and it wasn't the right diet for me to do all the time. But I really understood this concept behind humanity to animals, and I understood the validity of eating lower animal protein and the consequences of a high animal protein diet on the human body. So I get all of those pieces together. So if you're doing it because, I think the real first question to ask yourself is, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Is there, and some of you are doing it for religious reasons. Some of you are doing it because you read the China study. And I just want to address that for a moment, because the China study was done on all people who were eating animal meat. They did not say if they were eating chemical-free added antibiotics, added hormones to their animal meat. So I wish that study had been done where they had separated out the clean meats and the clean proteins from the proteins packed with drugs in them. Okay, so ask yourself why, and just really get clear, because you might find that there's a little wiggle room in your vegetarianism. And I'm gonna explain myself in a moment. And I'm being cautious as to how I say this, because I don't want to upset anybody. I want you to think this through for yourself. Okay, so why am I a vegetarian? And am I willing to maybe wiggle a little bit on that? Maybe I'm willing to eat eggs. Maybe I'm willing to eat fish. Maybe I'm willing to have protein every once in a while. So those are the kind of questions that I want you to think a little deeper. For me, I finally, after 10 years of being a vegetarian, I had to say to myself, I want to feel good. So I'm going to need to start to eat some meat so that I can feel better. And sure enough, once I brought meat back in, I felt so much better. So that's the kind of thought process I want you to have. Okay, second thing I want you to think about, if you've decided I'm only going to be a vegetarian, but I want the benefits of keto, I want you to encourage you to think about protein cycling. So if you're using beans as your primary protein source, I would not be doing beans every day. I would be really working on having low protein days, like keeping your protein under 20 grams so you can stimulate autophagy, and keeping your carbs under 50. So beans may not fit into those macros. So on that day, you might have to rely more on a lot of veggies, which is great. I love that. I mean, that's going to feed your good bacteria. But if you did that every single day, you might notice that you get more fatigued and you get more lose muscles. So I want you to think about protein cycling, where you're like, today I'm not going to have beans. Today I'm going to keep my protein under 20 grams. And tomorrow I am going to have beans and I'm going to actually eat more protein. And in that, if I'm eating beans, I'm going to go higher in my carb load. So how do you do some protein cycling? If you look at Naomi Whittle, she's coming on Resetter TV in a couple of weeks. She's a big fan of low protein, high protein, low protein, high protein. So she alternates day after day in her Glow 15 book. So you might do that where you're like autophagy day, low protein, no beans, low carbs. Next day you go beans, you up your beans, maybe do some more tofu, maybe the more of the proteins that you're leaning on, but that might kick you out of those macros. Okay, so I hope that makes sense where you're going to protein cycle as opposed to just doing beans and some of the starchier vegetables and tofu. Some of those things are just too high in carbs and they're hard to get you into ketosis. Okay, so first thing, why are you a vegetarian? What are you willing to wiggle on a little bit as far as will you do eggs? Will you do fish? What are you willing to wiggle on? And then the second thing is, okay, I'm not willing to wiggle. Could I do protein cycling? Okay. Third thing would be very similar to the first one, which is what are you willing to add in? So I've worked with a lot of people who are vegetarian and they want the benefits of keto. And so what we do is we start off working at their comfort level and looking at their blood sugar numbers. If they're getting into ketosis with their current vegetarian diet, and we're just manipulating their fasting window and that's getting them into ketosis, then great. But I've gotten a couple of patients that do a vegetarian diet, want to know keto, and I have to ask them, are you willing to put a protein day in? So many of these people, what they'll do is one day a week, they'll eat meat. They'll eat chicken, they'll eat grass-fed beef, they'll do eggs, like I said, they'll do fish. So they pull themselves out of a vegetarian diet one day a week so that they can get the benefits of getting into keto. So you might look at doing that as well. Okay. It's not an easy answer. It's a bit of a hard combination, but if you're checking your blood sugar, you're looking at your ketones, then you'll be able to figure it out for yourself. That would be a great starting place. Start by looking at your blood sugar and ketones. Are you able to get into ketosis given what you've got, your current vegetarian diet? If the answer is yes, then great. Then you just need some more variety on what to make. There's a great book out there called Ketotarian, and there's some great recipes in there. So if you're getting into ketosis, you just need more imagination to look into more recipes. If you're struggling to lose weight or you're struggling to get into ketosis, then you might try protein cycling first. And then if you're still struggling, you might ask yourself, okay, what proteins am I willing to add in? And then lastly, I'm going to throw this in there. Remember, there are two ways to get into ketosis. There's manipulating macros and there is fasting. So if you want to stay with your strict keto or vegetarian diet, it's possible that you just need to fast a little longer. You might need to go to one meal a day so that you can get into ketosis and still have your vegetarian or vegan meal. So those are my thoughts. Let me know if they're helpful. Again, I'm just offering up suggestions. I'm just trying to get you to think for yourself. So I understand the compassion around wanting to eat a vegetarian diet. I honor the religious reasons you would want to eat a vegetarian diet. If you're going vegetarian because of the China study, I would encourage you to look a little deeper. I don't think that they properly separated out the clean meats from the meats that are packed with chemicals. So I hope this video is thought-provoking. Please let me know what questions you have because I'll do a follow-up video if there's a lot of questions and you want more detail. So as always, I hope that helps. Hey, Dr. Mindy here, and if you enjoyed this video, please share it out to the world. I'm trying to get really cutting-edge health information into people's hands. And if you want to see more videos like this, just subscribe to my channel and you'll get updates as to when I go live and new videos that I put out there. Every Thursday, by the way, I do a live video from here and answer your questions. So if there are questions you want me to answer, join me then and I'll make sure that I address them. Thanks. Have an awesome day.